Why do scientists come here to the Arctic?
They study the effects of climate change.
How do they do it?
I explained to you that global warming amplified by humans had an impact on two very important cycles.
Yes, the one of water and the one of carbon.
In order to study the effects of climate change at the North Pole, scientists are studying the different parameters related to these cycles. When permafrost thaws, several phenomena occur. Ice melts and forms pools of thermokarst lakes. Carbon is released into the soils and water of thermokarst lakes or seas. Bacteria proliferate in these environments and degrade the organic matter that has become available. During these reactions, two greenhouse gases are emitted into the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, CO2, resulting from aerobic respiration, which means with oxygen in the soil. And methane, CH4, resulting from the anaerobic respiration, which means without oxygen, of bacteria proliferating in thermokarst ponds and lakes. Submarine permafrost fractures into methane reserves, releasing CH4 into the atmosphere. This amount of greenhouse gases emitted by the thawing of permafrost and released into the atmosphere amplifies the greenhouse effect responsible for global warming, thus contributing to the thawing of permafrost. This is called a positive feedback loop or snowball effect. CH4 absorbs about 21 times more infrared radiation than CO2. We already know that the oceans are comparable to carbon sinks because they dissolve CO2 to a depth of 60 meters from the surface and covers 71% of the planet's surface. Atmospheric CO2 is also captured by phytoplankton, and the carbon it stores can be ingested by the entire food chain. That organic matter settles as it falls to the seabed and then fossilizes, creating huge fossil carbon stocks. Finally, carbon released during permafrost thawing can also be transferred to the oceans via the continent's water sources. Scientists are therefore trying to predict scenarios showing the consequences of permafrost thawing on the carbon cycle and thus on the global climate change of the planet.
But how do scientists know that permafrost thaws?
They take the temperature of the land, oceans, and air. They notice that the whole thing is heating up abnormally. They study the evolution of the climate using highly sophisticated stations taking temperature, humidity, wind strength, luminosity, etc. To study the evolution of permafrost carbon, scientists use corers to remove samples of soil with different layers of permafrost that they will quickly measure before assessing the amount of ice, sediments, rock, etc. They also measure the snow that covers the permafrost because it has insulating properties. Scientists are also studying carbon transfer to the ocean by measuring the characteristics of the ocean and pack ice throughout the year. They use a variety of instruments to do this: corers to extract ice cores to study their composition. The chainsaw and electric auger are very useful for making holes in the ice.
Do they want to catch fish?
Almost. They are fishing for light data and phytoplankton specimens, but also those from the food chain, to study them in laboratory. A variety of vehicles are also used, such as a hovercraft, boats, and helicopters, to measure parameters related to the carbon cycle and greenhouse gas emissions on the surface of the water and more on the seafloor. Finally, on a larger scale, to study the impact of climate change on permafrost, drones, planes, and satellites are used to build maps, measure, and validate parameters. Using data collected in the field throughout the year, or over several consecutive years, the models built by scientists make it possible to establish several possible scenarios of the evolution of the carbon cycle and its impact on permafrost thawing.